I decided to take my girlfriend to India to meet my parents. They had no idea she existed. So 1 week before our trip, I called them. You see, the element of surprise was important here. I had to catch them off guard and give them no time to recover. I had been in America for 5 years, and she was Indian American who spoke Hindi, so I thought I'd done pretty good. After all, what more could they expect, right? Wrong. My dad answered the phone. "Dad, I'm coming home for the holidays." "Oh, wonderful, excellent," he said. "And Dad, I'm bringing someone with me, my girlfriend." There was total silence for a few seconds, and then he said, "Here, talk to your mother." "Mom, I'm coming next week, and I'm bringing my girlfriend with me." My mom says, "Well, that is okay, but she cannot stay with us." So even before they had met her, it seemed they had decided they didn't like the idea at all. We landed at New Delhi airport, and my parents are there to welcome me. They barely acknowledged her before whisking me home. And in the car, they said to me, "It's fine if you want to go out sightseeing with her, but don't feel it's too necessary to bring her home." We were there for 2 weeks, and I could barely finagle an invitation for her to have tea with my parents. At one point, my dad asked me, "So, what is a girlfriend? Is it a girl you are friends with or someone you want to marry?" Excellent question, right? All I could mumble was, "Well, it's somebody you are checking out, and see how things go." That did not go well at all. You see, my parents had gotten married the way everyone in their generation got married, and many people even now do, and that's arranged marriage. So my parents' parents had found each other through personals in the matrimonial section of the Sunday newspaper. And so my two sets of grandparents first met, and then they met with the boy and the girl separately, and then my dad and mom met and tied the knot. So the word girlfriend was not in their vocabulary at all. It had a connotation of tentativeness and uncertainty that they just couldn't digest. The rest of the trip was miserable for all. As I was headed back to the US, my dad said to me, "You promise us that you will be just friends with her." And I said to him, "Dad, I cannot promise you that." Coming back to New York was a huge relief. I could finally breathe easy and just be myself. Then a few days later, a letter arrived in the mail. It was Dad. "My dear son Montek, I disown you. You do not respect the wishes of your parents regarding the most important decision of your life." A week later, another letter. "You refuse to give us any assurances. I have no option but to cut you off." Another week, another letter. "You are not allowed to come to our house, and I will not come to yours. You are not my son anymore. And your mother agrees too." Underneath, my mom had signed her first, middle, and last name as if endorsing a check. "And your sister, too, will not have anything to do with you." And my sister had signed her full signature, too. So I was stunned. I spent weeks walking around in a daze trying to make sense of it all. Sure, I'd expected a little resistance, but the intensity of the rejection, not just of the girl, but of me, their son of 28 years, was very hard and painful. So that destroyed my relationship with my parents and also spelled an end to my relationship with the girl. Eventually, my parents and I patched things up a little. We would talk occasionally, but it was all distant and on the surface. A couple of times, they even tried to arrange me or offered to arrange me to girls in India. But I just couldn't talk about marriage with them anymore. So we spent many years estranged. 10 years after that first fateful trip, I had a chance to go to India again. A friend from Durham was going to get married in Mumbai. So I thought, there's a good excuse to go, and plus it was time to try to mend my relationship with my parents. I was longing to get them back. So I decided to go. And this time, I doubled down and took my white girlfriend with me to meet my parents. After all, what's my dad gonna say? I double disown you? Her name was Mary. She was half Scottish, half English, and totally white. We had met at a Bollywood dance party at a club called Ringside in downtown Durham. I had come from Chapel Hill, she lived in Durham, and I had just wandered in. She was actually looking for hip-hop and didn't know what Bollywood was, but figured, hey, it must be something fun because the cover charge is $15. So on our first date, I asked her, hey, have you had Indian food before? And she said, yes, I think I once had a falafel in Wisconsin. Now, despite our cultural differences, we hit it off real well. She was beautiful, smart, fun, and a breath of fresh air, with a bit of Midwestern friendliness and a down-to-earth attitude that we Punjabis are known for as well. But a couple of months in, she dumped me, telling me, I'm okay with your not being a white Midwestern guy, a Sven or Ollie who wears his baseball cap backwards. You have something else going on here, and I'm okay with it. But the other day, I walked into your kitchen, and I saw stuff on your shelves that I couldn't make any sense of, and I don't know if I can handle that. Okay, so I had garam masala and asafoetida and some other Indian spices. And so what? Now, we all have heard the breakup speeches, right? Oh, I'm just not ready to make a commitment yet. Or, I love you, but I feel the need to see other people. Or, it's not you, it's me. But here she's telling me, it's not you, it's your fucking spice cabinet. Before long, we got back together and had a wonderful romance for 1, 2, 3, 5 years. And during this entire time, my parents have no inkling of any of this. Why ruin a good thing, right? So now I'm planning to go to India to attend my friend's wedding and decide to take my white girlfriend with me. My parents have no idea she exists. So 1 week before our trip, I want to tell them. This time, I communicate at their level. I write them a letter. I tell them I'm bringing a girl with me who I want to marry. I include a few pictures. I try to anticipate any questions they might have. I send it by express mail, and then I wait. A few days pass, and the phone finally rings. It's Dad. I got your letter. Yes, please come. Both of you are welcome. Here's your mother. And my mom says, yes, both of you are welcome to come. I'm looking forward to meeting her. But she can't stay with us. So Mary and I make the long journey to India, and my parents are there at the airport to welcome both of us. Now, their standard greeting is folded hands and a nod. But Mary put her arms around them and hugged them. There are hugs and kisses all around. So we drop Mary off at our hotel, and my mom wastes no time in inviting her to come over to the house the next day, and she makes a feast, a spread like you've never seen. I ask her, you like Mary? And she says, yes, she's good. With the Indian bobblehead nod, which meant, wow, I totally adore her. So Mary has them totally charmed. She too thinks that my mom and dad are the sweetest and nicest people she's ever met. Dad is talking and laughing and telling Mary long stories over tea and bites of stollen that she has brought for them from Gugelhoof Bakery in Durham. Everyone is happy. When Mary and I go off for our friend's wedding in Mumbai, I get a phone call from my sister. She wants to tell me something. She says, when you come back to Delhi, Mary can stay at the house. At one point, my dad pulled me to the side and said, when are you getting married? And my mom went through a jewelry box and found me a ring. So a couple of days later, in the pink sandstone city of Jaipur, on New Year's Eve, on a rooftop surrounded by majestic castles and historic havelis, under a blue moon, with musicians playing ghazals set to Urdu love poetry, as the fireworks went off all around us, I got down on my knees and I popped the question. And she laughed and cried and we hugged. But she actually did not say yes. All that came out of her mouth was, but I have a house in Durham and you live in Chapel Hill. Where are we going to live? What a white people problem, right? And then she adds, Durham is so diverse and Chapel Hill is not. And I'm like, sweetheart, look at me. If you marry me, you don't have to worry about diversity the rest of your life. So back in Delhi, my parents are overjoyed. My dad runs out and buys sweets and snacks for a little celebration. But a little part of me is wondering, is this all for real? It all seemed a little too easy. I mean, are they really fully on board or just trying to keep the peace? And then as we are headed back to the US, my dad says to me, have your wedding in America. You know, here in India, it's all dirt and flies everywhere. Wait a second, was he essentially saying, not in my backyard? So we got married in Chapel Hill. It was a week-long, big fat Indian fusion wedding. And my parents and sister came to attend, and they stayed for 2 months. And we went sightseeing and traveling together and had a great time. But during the entire time, a little part of me was, are they really happy with this? Then one day, my dad was looking at a picture of Mary and her dog, Sammy. And he points to them and says to me, these two, Mary and Sammy, are now the most important members of our family. I had goosebumps all over as it sank in that yes, this was for real. And then he pointed to me and said, "You come second." And I thought to myself, almost every time, now it was still a bit of a puzzle as to what had made the outcome so different the second time. You know, the first time around, maybe I had been a little too American, bringing home a girlfriend and all. But the second time, Mary had a very simple explanation. You see, at 37 years, I had simply aged out of the Indian marriage markets. So my parents couldn't care less if I brought home a brown girl or a black girl or a white girl. They were simply happy it was a girl. But I knew Mary really had charmed them. She had come in with such force and swept them off their feet. But perhaps it also had to do with the letter I wrote to them to tell them I was bringing Mary to India. Now, I write research papers for a living, but that letter was totally something else. It was the most delicate piece of writing I've ever had to do. In that letter, I didn't once refer to Mary as my girlfriend. I said this was a girl I wanted to marry. Only if they approved, and only with their blessings. You see, on the one hand, I had to show that I cared about their opinion. On the other, I also had to make it clear that I wasn't being wishy-washy about this, that there was no tentativeness to this, and that the only right answer was for them to say yes. Perhaps also they were a little anxious that marrying a white girl would mean losing me forever to America. So in that letter I wrote that if everything went okay and we were married, I would come back and visit them often. I think my parents came around when they finally realized that instead of losing me, this was their chance to welcome me back into their fold and gain a daughter-in-law. So maybe with that letter, I'd finally figured out how to talk about marriage with my parents. Now over here, Mary is now cooking Indian food and using all the spices she had once freaked out over. Just last Sunday, she made black-eyed peas and put in just the right amount of asafoetida and a good sprinkling of garam masala. And they were delicious. We all have come a long way.
That's Montek Singh.